Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today. Unlock a world of convenience with Mully Box, your one-stop solution for personalized subscription boxes delivered right to your door. From gourmet snacks to unique finds, each box is tailored to your tastes. Experience the joy of surprises. Subscribe today at mullybox.com. That's MULLYBOX.com. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast. Central Texas Life with Ann Harder presents Central Texas Events.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Central Texas Events. And we are in the last weeks, really, of the 175th anniversary celebration for the founding of the city of Waco. And I have two members of the Jacob de Cordova Society here with us, something brand new that started really with this 175th celebration. And man, have a lot of things been done. Jeff Aristide, who really kind of started the whole thing, is with us, and Bobby Horner, who serves as a public information specialist with the city of Waco. And you're also agreeing to chair a time capsule.
That's right.
To help commemorate this 175th anniversary.
That's right.
But let's back up a little bit. And earlier in the year, or this year of celebration, a film was produced called My Beautiful Daughter, which is what Jacob de Cordova called the city of Waco as he was helping to plot out the land that would become the city. And tell us a little bit about the origins of that. And Jeff, the fact that everyone can come and see this film on the 31st.
So on January 31st at the Waco Civic Theater at 7 p.m., we have the public screening for the city of the Jacob de Cordova story. Jacob, in 1849, founded the city, working with many people that are considered founders along with him. Jacob himself, he had at that point in time acquired a great deal of property on both sides of the river in conjunction with other partners and so forth. And the first lots were sold to Shapley Ross. And lots were set aside in the public square subsequently for churches and schools and so forth, all an idea that came from de Cordova. And one of the historians at Baylor, Patricia Ward Wallace, suggested that the idea came from Jacob's wife, Rebecca.
Yeah.
So that was really great to read. So during the course of this year, we were able to work with a filmmaker from Hutto, Texas. He had been teaching film for 17 years at the McCallum High School. Ken Rogers, his students have gone on to win all kinds of awards around the world. And the thought process occurred, well, what if we were to do a film using the latest animation technology and retell the story of Jacob de Cordova?
Yeah, there's not a lot of photographs from that period of history, really.
That's right. And
so how do you do a movie, telling about all these things?
So it really came down to getting over initially to the Institute for Oral History in the Texas Collection, where there's an incredible wealth of material. As it turns out, Wacoans love their history.
Well, they do, don't they, Bobby?
Just amazing, not just storytellers, but people have been keeping track of these stories for many, many years. So somebody like myself who's looking for the history of de Cordova is actually reading papers that were written in the 1960s and 70s, looking back 100 years before, which of course that information and history is incredibly valuable as you learn about the history. De Cordova himself, along with his half-brother Phineas, had acquired by the mid-1850s interest in over 1 million acres of land. So they had to sell land. They were the land merchants of Texas. So that became a very fascinating story to tell. But in the process of doing the film and doing the research, we started a podcast series, which you hosted on the Spirited Women of Waco.
Interesting women that were involved in the early days of Waco.
The women in the early days of Waco made this city happen. And of course, after the Civil War ended and the men came back, the women had been running this place for quite some time and continued to do so over the next many, many years. And we've, in fact, told some of those stories in the podcast and intend to continue doing that. That also gave rise to the idea of how do we attract young people to retell these stories and use the latest technology to do that. So in the original process of writing a grant to Creative Waco to get support, we said we would create an intergenerational community. We would reach out to the folks who know the stories, can put guardrails around how do you find the truth of stories of 100 and 200 years ago. And of course, right here in the colleges and universities, you have that, but then you also have the historic commissions that have kept track of everything. The wealth of information. So then the question became, well, in addition to a movie, what else can we do to get people interested? And so we started talking with a few of the universities. We've been talking with Baylor, we've been talking with MCC and TSTC. And there's a lot of interest in setting up an animation studio program, and we've got that well underway at this point.
That's awesome.
And then the time capsule became the idea of, well, what other stories do we want to tell? And of course, Bobby was very interested in that.
Of course, and you've been very involved also with historic information about the city of Waco.
Right.
And
yes.
So,
I love over the last 8 years or so in particular, I have really gotten immersed in Waco's history. And anybody that's been around here for a while knows that, Waco has a varied, eclectic past.
Yes,
and
indeed.
some is good and some is not good.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Jeff and I have talked about, and I've talked with other folks that do history, is when you tell it, if you're really going to tell history, you got to look at all of it. I mean, that means look at the good things. You can't leave out the bad stuff either. And it's not our intent ever to influence how somebody interprets history. It's our job and our responsibility, as we see it, to tell it as accurately as we possibly can, and then let the individual decide how they want to interpret that, because it's going to vary between people. How it affects them, and that's where we kind of learn from our history. So that's our intent and driving force behind all this.
So what are you thinking in terms of the time capsule? When would that be buried? I always imagine it's buried somewhere. Where? And what kinds of things go in it?
Well, that is the big question right now. That is something that that Jeff and I have talked about, and you've graciously agreed to help me with some of that. We want to get some people involved that can help us really put some things in the time capsule that gives an accurate view of Waco, the history of Waco. But then another aspect of that could be, all right, for those of us that are doing this now, what if we wrote down what we think Waco's going to be like in 25 years, and then when whoever that is that's opens that up and they read it and say, hey, they had some insight of what was happening in Waco, and just compare Waco 25 years from now, the 200th anniversary, to where it is now.
So it's a relatively short time period for this time capsule.
I got to figuring I'd be 91 years old by that time.
Piece of cake.
So I got to eat my vegetables and take care of myself.
That's right,
right. Hopefully I'll be around for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that
but
would
that's
be
that's kind of the driving force behind that.
Yeah.
We do have strong interest from one of the premier museum specialists, really from Waco and from the world, Calvin Smith.
Oh, good.
And Calvin Of course, people know him here for the several museums he has done.
Oh, yeah.
I got the
As they say, he knows where the bodies are buried, too.
Yeah. And the
Uh,
mammoth bones, too.
And the
Yeah.
mammoth bone, you name it. He knows where it's buried.
So he has been brought on to do the renovations at the Taylor Museum.
Yeah.
And in the process of doing the work on De Cordova, of course, one of the places I started was the Taylor Museum, which was closed, but I was able to get in and see it. And then it became clear that there are many museums in this city.
Oh,
in
it
fact,
is a gem of a city for museums.
this is a city of museums, and it was a surprise to me that in terms of how I knew about it coming from the outside, I did not really know much about the museums. And now we could really make a case with this museum being renovated and with Calvin's history and being very innovative in the renovation of museums. How could we piece these things together? And when we talked about the time capsule, he brought it immediately to their advisory council and board and suggested that that's where the time capsule belongs, at the Taylor Museum.
Excellent.
So there's an excellent chance that that's where it will be buried, and in 2026. So we'll have about an 18-month run to gather.
So there's more time.
Right. Yes.
Gather the artifacts, get the right people around, because there are a lot of stories to tell and how you tell them. And then the idea in a time capsule is that, generally speaking, it's physical, but we live in a time when you have to have a virtual side to this.
Sure.
And so
That
we've
would be
been
neat
looking
to
at
have
that.
a place where folks could see actually what's
Yep.
going into it.
And of course, with the new technologies that are coming out, nobody really has an idea how this is going to play out
Isn't
with
that the
artificial
truth?
intelligence.
In 25 years, who knows what
Yeah,
things are
that's exactly right.
things are going to look like.
It'll be very
Absolutely.
interesting to see what we think 25 years will bring to us. But, you know, that will, of course, depend upon who you are and what age you are.
Well, it has been a remarkable year so far, from the founding of the Jacob de Cordova Society to all the ideas that are coming out to really celebrate the city of Waco and its 175 years of existence, and how to further look to the future, basically, isn't it, Bobby?
That's right. And one of the cool things that we did just last week at the Texas Music Cafe, the Chamber's lead program that's for high school kids,
Yes.
and Rachel Martinez there oversees that. We got to meet over there, and again, like Jeff said, we would like to introduce doing stuff like this, or the film. You want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera. The storytelling, tell them how to teach stories. We took about 10 kids, and Chris Ormorian kind of led the charge, because he knows how to do all this. And some of the kids were divided up behind the camera. There were two young ladies that they came up with a talk show theme, and they were the host. And so me and another lady got to be interviewed by them.
Very
and
good.
And they did all this in the space of probably less than 2 hours. And
Wow.
so Chris put the video together, and they did the interviews. And I tell you what, it blew us away. They really got into it, and they did a great job in that short a time frame. And so that's just kind of the kickoff of what we would like to see with this film academy that Jeff has definitely been involved with, and the people involved. And it's just you've heard in our country, we need more skilled workforce, people that do the hands-on stuff. Well, this is just another aspect. If you've got a child that's got an interest in photography or camera work or acting, whatever that may be, this could be an opportunity for them to express themselves.
Yeah,
So-
and Jeff, it's been your passion really to get younger people involved in relishing their history, and understanding history, and this is just a perfect opportunity for that.
Well, the young kids are exposed to all types of storytelling. And so it's real important for them to say, well, this is fiction, and this is what history is.
This is what happened, yeah.
This is what happened. And historians here make that distinction, and they do it incredibly well. and they document it over the course of time.
Mhm.
And that's really critical to be able to tell the story. But the young people are going to do it with they're going to expect to walk into a museum in 5 years and sit down and talk to Jacob de Cordova and have Jacob introduce George Erath to them and sit down and
know.
have a conversation.
And that is also possible with AI. I mean, we
Yes.
don't even have a glimmer of what is possible with artificial intelligence.
And with all of the stories sitting here, and it's not just in Waco, but it's a lot of it is right here. There's a lot of it at Rice University in Houston. There's a lot of it at the University of Texas in Austin. But the story of Texas has pretty much been quiet in terms of how it's been told. And now the opportunity for young people to tell it and reinvent it in ways that are going to be exciting could bring a lot of business opportunity to Waco, the type of business opportunity that could set Waco apart and not just have youth staying here for the jobs, but also to have a new way to tell the story of the city of Waco. Because really, you come here, you got the Texas Sports Museum, you got the Texas Rangers Museum, you've got, of course, the Taylor Museum. You have
Dr. Pepper.
That's
Don't
right,
forget
exactly.
Dr. Pepper.
Doctor. So you have
Yeah.
several different museums. Why not make this a city of museums? Which, of course, was an idea of Calvin Smith's back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
I don't want to. That was his idea, and all of a sudden, it's
And it
being
really is,
resurrected.
it's a reality. I mean, it truly is. Well, again, you have done such an amazing thing up to this point, but everyone can come and see the film, My Beautiful Daughter, which I just love the title of it because I can just see Jacob as he's looking across, prairie land, Blackland Prairie, and imagining where schools might be, or playgrounds, and of course homes and city buildings and all that kind of thing that he was so instrumental in helping lay out. Again, My Beautiful Daughter will be screened at 7:00 on the 31st. That's a Friday, I believe, Friday night at the Waco Civic Theater, which is right on Lake Erie Drive, just off of Bosque. Any charge for that?
We have the first 50 students. We're inviting them in,
Yeah.
and it'll be a $20 charge just to help defray some costs. And we have a link which we'll put in the show notes, I guess.
Okay.
There.
Yes, and also there is a Facebook page.
There is.
Will there be a way to get more information on the Facebook page as well?
On the Jacob de Cordova Society Facebook page, there's a link to the tickets right there.
Okay, very good, Jeff. Thank you, Bobby. You're awesome, and thank you so much for your service to the city of Waco. I understand you're thinking about retiring.
Yeah, well, it's more than thinking now. So it's
It's a done deal.
in the next month. So, but I tell people I don't plan on going anywhere. I want to keep doing stuff like this with the city of Waco's
Oh, yeah.
history and development. And I wanted to just throw in one other final comment too. All this film that we're doing, this is just the first one. One of the things that we've tossed around is maybe doing one also on the Native American history.
Yes.
That started out here even long
With the
before.
Waco Indians.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And the Texas Rangers. There's no telling where this
Oh.
may go. Our history, African American history, Hispanic history, Native American history. I mean, there's just a wealth of opportunities that we could explore.
It's very exciting.
Yes.
It's an exciting thing to see what lies ahead based on what has happened so many years ago, 175 years ago. Grateful to you both, though,
You
for
bet.
being with us today and for all that you're doing through the Jacob de Cordova Society and for the city to help celebrate 175 years. Thank
We're
you
having
both.
fun.
Thank you for being with us, and we hope to see you on the 31st. See you later. Bye-bye.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.